Don't misunderstand sugar abstinence. Latest longevity research from Japan suggests that after age 65, remember these 4 things not to eat, and you can easily live to 99. Today we're discussing a topic of concern to many seniors. Should we give up sugar as we age? Many people, upon hearing about high blood sugar and diabetes, assume that they must say goodbye to sweets as they age. However, recent research in Japan has surprising findings. It turns out that after age 65, our body's needs are significantly different from those of our younger selves. Many outdated dietary beliefs need to be revisited. Some foods once considered harmful actually contribute to longevity. Conversely, the true culprits that affect lifespan lie in other details. If you want to live healthily beyond 99, remember these 4 golden rules after age 65. What's the secret behind this? Let's delve deeper. First, let's discuss the topic of giving up sugar. It's generally believed that a light, non-sweet, non-salty diet is essential for health in old age. However, the physical conditions of people over 65 differ significantly from those of middle-aged adults. Is it really better to completely eliminate all sugar? A shocking Japanese survey reveals that 1 in 6 people over 65 suffers from malnutrition. Isn't it incredible? Some seniors appear to be sleek, with waistlines measuring nearly a meter. Yet doctors discover they're malnourished. What's going on? Nutrient absorption and appetite decline with aging. Many seniors, fearing the 3 highs, avoid food altogether: sugar, oil, meat, eggs, and cholesterol. They subsist on vegetables and porridge. While their 3 highs may improve over time, their health deteriorates. Insufficient protein leads to muscle loss, a weakened immune system, and a host of chronic diseases. This is why Japanese researchers are proposing a new approach. The elderly should have a different diet than their middle-aged counterparts. Rather than simply cutting down, they should prioritize balanced nutrition. For example, cholesterol has long been considered a negative, but this study found that those over 65 with slightly elevated total cholesterol have the highest survival rates, while those with low cholesterol are more likely to die early. Because cholesterol is a key component of cell membranes, cholesterol levels naturally decrease with aging. Strict dietary restrictions can actually accelerate cell aging and damage. The research team boldly recommends raising the ideal cholesterol level for the elderly. A total cholesterol level of 180 to 260 is considered normal for men over 65, and 200 to 260 for women, which is significantly more relaxed than the standard for younger people. Isn't this a game changer? In other words, maintaining a slightly higher cholesterol level by eating some eggs and meat can actually be beneficial for the elderly. This finding reminds us that blindly fearing sugar and turning away from fat as we age is a mistake. Instead of completely eliminating all sugar, it's better to learn to manage sugar wisely and maintain a balanced diet to avoid these truly deadly dietary pitfalls. Now let's get to the point and uncover the 4 don'ts for longevity. First, avoid excessive refined sugar. The emphasis here is on excessive. We're not encouraging elderly people to indulge in sweets, but rather to avoid excessive, non-nutritious sugar intake. Why? As we age, our insulin function deteriorates, making it harder for cells to utilize the sugar we consume, which can easily cause blood sugar spikes and damage blood vessels and organs. Chronic high blood sugar levels can lead to a host of problems: heart disease, stroke, kidney failure, impaired vision, neuropathy, and in severe cases, dementia. Therefore, consuming too much sweets can definitely shorten your lifespan. An Australian study found that elderly people who drink more than 500 milliliters of sugary drinks daily experience bone loss at a rate 1.5 times that of the average person. This means that a sweet tooth not only causes blood sugar to spiral out of control, but can also accelerate bone aging, leading to osteoporosis and a significantly increased risk of fractures. Furthermore, some elderly people who often complain of back pain, leg pain, and joint stiffness are also linked to excessive sugar consumption. When they reduced their sweet intake, their joint pain and morning stiffness improved significantly. This suggests that excessive sugar intake triggers inflammation in the body, exacerbating joint strain. Upon hearing this, many people think, "See, sweets are really poison, don't be hasty." Elderly people do need to control their sugar intake, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to enjoy desserts for the rest of their lives. Completely quitting sugar may instead bring another hidden danger: malnutrition and depression. Think about it. Sugar is a fast sugar fuel and the main energy source for the brain. Elderly people have small appetites. If they don't touch sugar, it may lead to insufficient calories and too low blood sugar, making people dizzy, palpitating, weak, and even increase the risk of dementia. In addition, eating sweets will promote the secretion of dopamine in the brain, bringing a sense of pleasure. Proper enjoyment of desserts can make the elderly happy and relieve stress, which is also beneficial to health. Blindly abstaining from food will not only make life less fun, but also may induce depression, which is even more detrimental to life expectancy. So the key lies in a degree. How to satisfy your appetite without harming your health? Nutrition experts recommend that the elderly choose more natural sources of sugar. For example, when you want to eat sweet fruits, you may want to eat 1 or 2 slices of banana or apple to satisfy your craving, or add some honey and red dates to your oatmeal porridge. The natural sweetness is healthier. As for refined sugar snacks, try to eat less, especially sugary drinks, cakes, biscuits, and other processed foods that are high in sugar, high in calories, and lack other nutrients. If you really want to eat a piece of cake for your birthday, please remember to eat small portions and just taste it. What you need to quit is excessive sugar, not the sweetness of life. Adhering to this principle will stabilize blood sugar levels, lead to happiness, and ensure longevity. Second, avoid excessively salty foods. When it comes to longevity, saltiness is actually more dangerous than sweetness. Excessive sodium intake from salt can lead to high blood pressure, which in turn significantly increases the risk of stroke and heart disease. High blood pressure is known as a silent killer, especially for people over 65. High blood pressure is the #1 killer of life expectancy. The Japanese traditionally loved salty foods, with pickles, miso soup, soy sauce, and salted fish being part of their traditional diet. However, in the second half of the 20th century, Japan discovered that a high-salt diet led to significantly higher stroke rates among its elderly, impacting life expectancy. The government then vigorously implemented salt reduction campaigns, such as encouraging families to use less salt in cooking and introducing low-sodium soy sauce. The result? Stroke rates decreased significantly, and life expectancy in Japan has steadily climbed, now ranking among the highest in the world. This demonstrates the crucial importance of low salt for longevity. So the question is, how much salt is considered low? The World Health Organization recommends that the average adult consume no more than 2 grams of sodium per day. About 5 grams of salt is equivalent to a teaspoon. But many seniors may have no idea. 2 grams of sodium? 5 grams of salt? This isn't medicine, so there's no scale to measure it. So simply remember a few principles to avoid high sodium levels. First, limit your intake of processed and preserved foods. Common pickles and preserved vegetables, such as sauerkraut and pickled cucumbers, salted fish and eggs, ham, bacon, sausages, and various canned foods are surprisingly high in sodium. These foods lack fresh nutrition and contain a large amount of salt, which is extremely harmful to the elderly. Imagine having a bowl of porridge with a few pieces of pickled cucumber, a preserved egg, and a piece of fermented tofu for breakfast every day. While this may seem light, it actually contains a significant amount of sodium. If you do this for a long time, it would be strange if high blood pressure doesn't come knocking on your door. Secondly, here are 5 tips for reducing salt in cooking. Use natural spices to enhance flavor. Reduce the amount of soy sauce by half. Blanch the vegetables to remove some salt before cooking. Add less salt to soups, and taste before adding salt. These methods can help us reduce salt intake unknowingly. Some people may ask, the elderly's sense of taste has deteriorated, and food is too bland and tasteless. What should I do? Indeed, as people age, their taste buds become less sensitive. The saltiness that they used to think was just right may now taste as bland as water. Therefore, you can cleverly use sourness or umami to increase your appetite. For example, add a little vinegar or tomato sauce to season it. The sour feeling can stimulate your taste buds, or add some mushrooms or kelp broth to enhance the flavor. Use the umami molecule glutamate to enhance the flavor and reduce the need for salt. Eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are rich in potassium ions, which help fight the harm of sodium and maintain stable blood pressure. In short, eating less salt in old age is an absolute magic weapon for longevity. Don't eat too salty food. Keep your blood pressure stable, be safe, and stay away from stroke to live a long life. Don't underestimate this. The third thing not to eat. Don't eat overly greasy and processed food. When people get older, their digestive system function declines, and their tolerance to high-fat food becomes worse. If you often eat a lot of meat and fish, fried to a crisp, the gastrointestinal tract cannot digest it well, which can easily cause indigestion and gastroesophageal reflux. It may also lead to obesity and abnormal blood lipids. Think about it. When you were young, you might be able to finish a plate of fried chicken and a bowl of braised pork rice in one go. But if you continue to eat like this when you are older, you will definitely feel bloated and uncomfortable all night, and your blood lipids may soar, causing dizziness and blurred vision. Therefore, not eating too much oil is definitely the key to health preservation for the elderly. In addition, processed meat and trans fats should also be avoided as much as possible. The World Health Organization has long classified processed meat, such as ham, hot dogs, bacon, sausages, etc., are classified as Class 1 carcinogens, and frequent consumption increases the risk of colorectal and stomach cancers. Trans fats, found in hydrogenated vegetable oil products, such as some cream cakes, pastries, cookies, and margarine, raise bad cholesterol and damage blood vessels. Eating these foods is detrimental to health even in youth, let alone in old age. Therefore, long-lived people rarely consume processed foods daily. The diets of centenarians in Japan share a commonality: a preference for whole foods and minimal processed junk food. They typically consume low-fat, nutritious ingredients like fish, tofu, kelp, and vegetables daily, consuming ample protein without excessive oil. They also avoid foods high in fat and sugar, such as fast food, French fries, and cakes and desserts. Of course, as mentioned earlier, the elderly actually need a moderate amount of fat and cholesterol. Fat is a crucial energy source and a building block for cells. Completely eliminating fat is unhealthy, leading to malnutrition and endocrine disorders. Therefore, the emphasis here is on avoiding excessively greasy foods. What does excessively greasy mean? For example, fatty pork belly, greasy braised pork, thick fried tempura, a layer of oil on the soup surface, etc. These are too heavy for the elderly. It is recommended to use steaming, boiling, stewing, and other methods as much as possible when cooking, and use less frying. The choice of oil is also a science. Use more vegetable oils such as olive oil and tea oil and less lard and butter, which are high in saturated fat. When eating meat, choose lean meat instead of fat, such as skinless chicken legs, lean parts of beef, more loin and less pork belly. The intake of fat should pay attention to quality. Nuts, avocados, and deep-sea fish are rich in unsaturated fatty acids, which are good for cardiovascular health and can be consumed in moderation every day. On the contrary, French fries and fried foods avoid the oil that is repeatedly fried at high temperatures, and the creamer and margarine containing trans fats. Another important point is that the elderly should never eat and drink too much at once. Some elders are restrained in normal times, but they indulge themselves during the New Year and other festivals when their children and grandchildren gather together, eating braised pork elbows, fried rice cakes, and finally a fried corn cake. As a result, they end up in the hospital before the festival is over. This is the so-called holiday heart disease or binge eating syndrome. Overeating in old age can easily lead to acute pancreatitis, myocardial infarction, and even sudden death. There have been cases in foreign countries where elderly people had a heart attack after happily eating a big meal on their birthdays. This is a profound lesson. Therefore, eating 7 or 8 times a day for each meal is a good idea. Sharing your satiety is an iron rule of senior citizen diet. Enjoy delicious food, but don't be greedy. It's better to eat small meals frequently. Don't overeat until you're bloated and out of breath. Keep your meals light and moderate, and stay away from high-fat and highly processed foods. Our blood vessels will be cleaner, the burden on our liver and kidneys will be less, and we'll feel more energetic, bringing us one step closer to living 100 years. Fourth, don't eat. Don't eat spoiled or overnight food. This rule is often overlooked, but it's crucial. Many elders are frugal and reluctant to throw away leftovers. It's common for them to store them in the refrigerator for 3 days and then reheat them and eat them anyway. However, this frugality of the elderly sometimes saves money, but sacrifices their health. You may not know this. It is known that if cooked food is left out for too long, it will breed a poison that cannot be seen or smelled: nitrite. This is especially true in green leafy vegetables, where the nitrite content will increase significantly after being left out overnight. If you always eat overnight food, the nitrite may be converted into carcinogenic nitrosamines in the body, which will increase the risk of gastric cancer and esophageal cancer in the long run. In China, the older generation's long-term consumption of pickled vegetables and leftovers is a major reason for the high incidence of gastric cancer. In addition, the refrigerator is not a safe. An elderly man in his 70s ate leftovers that had been in the refrigerator for 2 days. As a result, he began vomiting, diarrhea, and high fever the next day. He was sent to the hospital and found to have an intestinal bacterial infection that caused sepsis, which almost cost him his life. It turns out that the rice had been teeming with invisible E. coli in the refrigerator. While young people might just be able to handle the diarrhea, food poisoning can be a fatal blow to the elderly with weakened immune systems. Academician Zhang Nanshan of the Chinese Academy of Engineering has publicly called out, older people's excessive frugality and forced consumption of leftovers contribute to a high incidence of stomach cancer. The accumulation of nitrite is more expensive than the money saved on vegetables. These words should serve as a warning to every senior citizen. Never be reluctant to throw away leftovers, and especially avoid eating sour, smelly, or spoiled food, especially seafood and meat, which are more susceptible to spoilage and bacterial growth after being left out overnight. Leaving cakes and desserts containing cream or raw eggs for too long is also dangerous. So what if you can't finish them? There are 2 principles. One is to cook less and eat it immediately instead of cooking a large pot and leaving it for several days. The other is to store leftovers properly. Leftovers should be kept at room temperature for no more than 2 hours and then refrigerated as soon as possible. It is best to eat them on the same day or before noon the next day. They must also be heated thoroughly before eating. If they have not been eaten for more than 24 hours, it is better to throw them away for safety. For longevity, food hygiene cannot be neglected. There is a saying that diseases come from the mouth. The older we are, the weaker our ability to resist bacterial toxins. We must control our mouths. A mouthful of spoiled leftovers may be as harmful to our health as smoking for 10 years. We must not lose sight of the big picture by avoiding spoiled food overnight. This is equivalent to adding an insurance policy to our health. Only with this last line of defense can we safely live to a ripe old age. The 4 don'ts can be summarized as, don't eat too much sweet, don't eat too much salt, don't eat too much oil, and don't compromise on food. Ultimately, there's no secret formula for longevity. It's often the accumulation of good habits in life. Some friends may ask, my family member is over 90 years old and eats fatty meat and cake every day. How come he lives so long? Admittedly, genetics and individual differences do exist, but they affect a very small number of people. The health of most people is still in our own hands. Developing good eating habits may not be as effective as medication, but they will lay the foundation for our longevity over the years. Think about the elders in the world's longevity village, Okinawa, Japan. Centenarians in the US love to drink jasmine tea and eat sweet potatoes and vegetables, and almost never overeat. The elderly in Sardinia, Italy, drink a moderate amount of red wine every day, but never drink excessively, and their diet is mainly vegetables, fruits, beans, and whole grains. The centenarians in Bama, Guangxi, China, have a bowl of corn porridge, a handful of wild vegetables, and some homemade rice wine in the morning. Although their lives are simple, they are not disturbed by modern processed junk food. They may have different cultures and menus, but they have one thing in common: moderation, naturalness, and balance. They use less salt, sugar, and oil, and never eat spoiled leftovers. They maintain an appropriate amount of nutrition and a happy mood. This is the simplest and most effective way to maintain health. Finally, back to the question of, should I quit sugar when I get older? I believe that after reading this, you've already understood. The answer isn't a simple yes or no. What really needs to be abandoned are those bad habits that undermine your health, not just a single flavor. Life needs a touch of sweetness, a healthy dose of saltiness, and the nourishment of oil and water. What we need is a balance and the right foods. When you reach 65, firmly remember these 4 don'ts to lock yourself in a healthy and long life. At the same time, don't forget to eat the right nutrients: protein, dietary fiber, vitamins, and good fats. Combine this with moderate exercise and a positive attitude, and your later years will naturally be sweet, fulfilling, and disease-free. Avoid what you should avoid and eat what you should eat. And living to 99 is not a dream. Let's work together towards a healthy 100, living every day to the fullest. Thank you everyone for watching. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.